Can you see me?
Good afternoon, madam. Hello, madam. Geethakumar, madam.
Ravikumar?
Madam, Chairperson, SIRC.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, sir. Yeah. Namaste. Good afternoon.
Okay, namaste, madam.
Yeah. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Audible.
Yeah, sir.
Ravikumar, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Can you able to hear me, sir? Audible?
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
MD, madam. Tanabaki, madam. Professor and Dean, Department of Commerce.
Vanakkam.
Vanakkam, madam.
Tanabaki.
Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you. Madam, நீங்க unmute பண்ணிக்கோங்க.
வணக்கம் மேடம்.
வணக்கம். ரொம்ப
சார் ரவிக்குமார் சார், குட் ஆஃப்டர்நூன்.
Good afternoon, ma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
இந்த ஸ்டூடண்ட்ஸ் என்னென்ன கிளாஸ்ல இருக்காங்க?
MCom. MPhil.
Okay, wonderful.
50% of students are postgraduate.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Then YouTube link also connected, madam.
Okay. For other commerce students.
Yeah. Including commerce and other students.
Fine, sir. Very good. எத்தனை பேர் காமர்ஸ் படிக்கிறாங்க நம்ம காலேஜ்ல? யுனிவர்சிட்டில
120, madam.
120. Okay, fine.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. We can start, ma'am.
Yes. So we have been taking a break here. So 89.2D and 89.2E, the statement which we need to submit it, which we need to upload it. And as I told you again, this is asking information only about the invoice details, like invoice number, date and value, and the SES unit supplier also can equivalently supply goods and also for services. So you need to select the category, whether it is for goods or for services. And then we will not be having any shipping bill because this is for goods or for services. And then we will not be having any shipping bill because this is not an export. This is only deemed to be an export. So it's only SES unit supply. So we will be having only the endorsed invoice number. This is the main document which is required to be submitted by the taxpayer claiming the refund. So the invoice copy has to be endorsed by the special economic zone officer. So he has to endorse it by affixing his signature and seal. Only when this document is being, the document details are being uploaded here, this is qualified as a proper SES unit supply. So now the statement has to be uploaded. And again, statement 5A under 89.4. Statement 5A is nothing but the computation, the refund computation, which I have listed out here below. So this is also again the formula which we are going to use it for computing the maximum refund. The turnover of the zero-rated supplies of goods or services divided by the adjusted total turnover multiplied by the net input tax credit. As I already told you, net input tax credit is nothing but the input tax credit which has been accumulated and which is pertaining to that period, particular period for which the refund is going to be applied. Say, for example, I am going to claim the refund from April to September. Then the ITC accumulated only from April to September will be filtered up and it will be placed. The system is not going to take up the amount prior to April and after September. So only the period, from period and to period, if you mention it, only the ITC accumulated during this period will be called as the net input tax credit. The turnover of
Is it
zero rated
effective? I
supply,
don't
as
know,
I
I'm
told you,
asking.
whatever be the
Because
supply
classroom
value that
coaching
you
is
have
very, very
done to
effective.
the CES unit
Yeah,
will be
online
called as
coaching
the turnover of the zero
anyway,
rated
to have a control and
adjusted
continuity, it is
total
recommended.
turnover.
Yeah.
Is nothing
So
but
that they don't
the
forget
total
the lessons
turnover
and
after
time,
is
yeah.
nothing
So
but
that
turnover after
time is not getting
eliminating
wasted.
all the exempted turnover, because exempted turnover is not eligible for claiming the refund. So it is only the turnover after excluding your exempted turnover, which is called as the adjusted turnover, will be put into here. Turnover of, here I have given an example, turnover of zero rated goods or services amounting to rupees 2 lakh. Total turnover rupees 3 lakh. Exempted turnover rupees 50,000, and the adjusted total turnover, that is from the total turnover I have excluded the exempted turnover. So 3 lakh minus 50,000 will give you the net amount of 2,50,000 rupee. So this 2,50,000 is called as the adjusted total turnover. The net ITC is 45,000. So let us assume I have claimed the refund for the period April to September. So the ITC pertaining to April to September is only
Is it a
45,000.
special
So that is
program or in
called as the
continuation of
net
your classes
ITC.
you are conducting?
Now when you
sir?
apply these figures into the formula
special
which is
program.
mentioned above, 2 lakh,
Okay.
that is the turnover of zero rated, divided by adjusted total turnover 2,50,000, multiplied by the net ITC 45,000, the resultant is only 36,000. So out of 45,000 ITC, I am only eligible to claim the refund of 36,000. But what happens to the balance? What happens to the balance 9,000 rupee? That 9,000 rupee is nothing but the ITC pertaining to your exempted turnover, which is not eligible to be claimed as a refund. Itself, the ITC pertaining to the exempted turnover will get eliminated, and you will have only the eligible ITC. So, which is the ITC which is eligible to be claimed as a refund. So, this statement, this computation itself is given under statement 5A of Rule 89(4). So after this computation, again you need to check back. Again you need to give a declaration under 89(2)(f). So what is this declaration under 89(2)(f)? This declaration to the effect that the CES unit, the person who is located in the CES unit has not availed the input tax credit of the taxes which are paid by the supplier. Since because the supplier is now going to claim the refund, the recipient, the person who is located in the CES unit, has not availed the input tax credit. Suppose if he have availed the input tax credit, it means that the supplier has passed on the tax incidence. So again, the declaration under 54(3) will not get satisfied. So again, now this becomes an ineligible refund. So before, we have to always ensure that the recipient, the CES unit, person located in the CES unit, has not availed the taxes as the input tax credit, whether it can be on
Yes, sir.
supply of services or it can be on supply of goods.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
5 minutes. Steve.
Ma'am, can you
Yes,
represent
sir.
us
Okay,
slide
okay, sir. Right.
Please.
Yes,
Please.
1 second.
Okay. Students are also yet to join, is it?
Madam?
Students also will be joining now?
Yeah.
They are joining.
Reason, sir, one thing.
Ma'am,
Invitation
is it visible now?
yeah,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
for
ma'am.
public.
You can start, ma'am.
Both Google Meet link as well as
ஆமா அது it's not opening
So now the
a
declaration to
YouTube
the
link.
effect under section 89(2)(f) has
Not
to be
at opening,
given. It
அப்படின்னு
states
சொல்லி
that the refund on account of supplies
members
of
அங்க online ல
goods
பார்த்துட்டு
or
இருக்காங்க,
services
நான்
made
separate
to a
பண்ணதுல.
CES unit or a CES
Okay,
developer,
okay. I
and
will
the
send,
recipient has not
இப்போ
claimed the
latest link இருந்தா
paid
send
amount
பண்ணுங்க,
as
I
the
will
input tax
okay,
credit. So the declaration
share it
has to be
okay.
given.
Okay.
And again, coming back to the undertaking under section 16
latest
and
YouTube
42,
link.
hope we have discussed 2 times. In the earlier previous 2 slides, we have discussed this point, section 16 and section 42. Now again, the self-declaration under section 89(2)(l). What is the declaration under 89(2)(l)? 89(2)(l) is nothing but a self-declaration with respect to tax, interest, or any other amount for the period from and to for which I am going to claim the refund. The incidence of the tax and the interest has not been passed on to any other person. So this is the self-declaration given under 89(2)(l). Suppose the refund amount exceeds 2 lakh rupee, then self-declaration is not satisfied. Self-declaration alone is not satisfied. Instead of self-declaration, a certificate has to be obtained from a chartered accountant or a cost accountant, a qualified chartered accountant or a cost accountant, as per Rule 89 2M. As per Rule 89 2M. So remember, if it is below 2 lakh, self-declaration is sufficient. If the refund claim is exceeding 2 lakh rupee, self-declaration is not sufficient. In that case, you have to go for a certificate from a chartered accountant or a cost accountant, and this is as per Rule 89 2M. Coming to the supporting documents, statement of invoices. Yes, again, Annexure B is nothing but the invoice details of all the supplies of goods or services. Whatever the content of the invoices, you have to just again reproduce it here in Annexure B. Self-certified copies of details which are not found in GSTR 2A. Yes, so the supplier made a mistake, so the transaction, the invoice has not been reflected in my 2A. In that case, I need to attach a self-certified copy. Endorsement from the specified officer of the CES. This is the most important thing. As I told you, the endorsement as per 89 Rule 89.1. What does that say? If it is goods, then that supply should be admitted in full in the CES unit. The supply is only for authorized operations as the endorsement done by the specified officer of the particular zone. Suppose if it is for services, then this supply is for only authorized operation, and evidence regarding the receipt of services for authorized operation are endorsed by the specified officer. So if it is for supply of goods or services, it doesn't matter. But only thing is that the invoice has to be endorsed. Endorsement in the sense, just the CES officer has to affix his seal and signature that these supplies are only for authorized operations. So this is the proof to ensure that the supplies are done to CES unit. The last one is a copy of the GSTR 2A. Yes, of course, for all the refund category, we always have to upload the downloaded GSTR 2A in the PDF format.
Good evening.
So now these are all the supporting documents for claiming refund by the CES unit supplier. So we'll move into the next category, refund on account of supply to CES with payment. So now the previous slide we have discussed without payment, and this slide we are going to discuss with the payment. So again, the declaration under 54.3, goods are not subject to duty drawback. The declaration has to be given, and declaration under 89.2F, the declaration which we have also seen in the previous slide, that
good evening to one and all present in
CES
this
unit
online
has not
platform.
collected any. The supplier of CES
Most
has not
dignified
collected any
and Honorable Vice Chancellor of
CES
Bharathiar
unit.
University,
And
Dr.
statement
P.
4 under
Kalidat, sir,
89.2D
Head of the
and
Department
2E.
of
That
Commerce,
also we have seen in our previous
resource
slide. This
persons
is the
of today's
statement
session,
89.2D
CA.
and 2E.
GEETHAKUMAR,
Since both the
Chairperson,
categories of
and
refunds are
CA.RAVIKUMAR,
pertaining to CES,
Chairman,
we have the
Career
same
Counseling
Excel, we
Committee,
have the same rule,
Sengai
same statement 5,
SIRC
which is
of
applicable
ICAI,
for both the categories.
organizer of this event, Dr. M.
Undertaking under
Jagadishwaran,
section 16.2C
Assistant
and
Professor,
42 is
Department
of
of
course
Commerce,
the credit
who
matching
had already
mechanism and the
conducted
payment
many
of
programs
taxes.
for the
Refund
career
can be claimed
advancement
as
of
an
the
input
students. I also
only when
welcome
the
all the
supplier has paid the
participants
taxes.
attending
Otherwise,
this
we are not
program.
eligible to claim.
Today, we mark our
Self-declaration under
presence
89
for the
2L.
online
This is
career
what I said.
counseling
When the
program
refund claim does not
about
exceed 2
chartered
lakh rupee,
accountancy
self-declaration is
organized by
sufficient.
Department of Commerce,
But if the
Bharathiar
refund amount
University.
is more than 2
The
lakh rupee,
capacity to learn is a
certificate is
gift.
required to be obtained
The
from a
ability
chartered
to learn
accountant
is
or
a
a
skill,
cost
and the
accountant
willingness to
under
learn
section
is a
89
choice.
2M.
A
Now coming
learning
to the
curve is always
supporting
essential for growth.
documents.
I strongly believe
I
that
think
if
there
you
is some
pay
disturbance
attention,
in the
you can
background,
learn
ma'am.
something new
Yes,
every
ma'am,
day,
from
and
my-
a good
from my
investment
side?
in knowledge
I don't know, ma'am, but
always pay
for us
better
it is clear
interest.
only. Participants are saying that
As
some
we all
disturbance
aware
are there.
that chartered accountancy
Okay.
is one of
Just a
the
second.
most
Dear
demanding
participants,
and promising career
please refresh
options
your page
for
or
every student. At
increase your
present,
resolution so that you can
India
watch the
have
live video.
demand supply
There may be some
miscellaneous
disturbance
of
due to
chartered
network error,
accountants.
so please kindly refresh
How
your
many
page
of you
so
are
that
aware that for
you can get the
managing
clear picture of the
98
slide.
lakh
Thank you,
businesses
ma'am.
registered
Yes,
under
thank you.
GST regime, we have only 3 lakh chartered accountants? Enduring demand for CA graduates is the main reason behind organizing this program.
Now the supporting
Always remember
documents
that
which are to be required to
even
be
your
uploaded,
destiny
the
fails,
same
the hard work will help you to
self-certified copies
succeed
of
in your life.
Annexure A. Suppose if
Our
the
Vice
GSTR
Chancellor
2A is
is
not
one such
containing that
person
particular
who is
invoices, out of
continuously
10 only
striving
9
for the career
are
progress
listed out,
and
one is
better
being missed out by the
opportunities for
supplier.
our
In that
students.
case, you can attach
His
the
unending
self-certified copies
commitments
of those
towards
missed
his
out
work,
invoices.
have transformed
Self-declaration,
many of his
non-prosecution under
promises
Rule
into
91.
reality
So, what does
within
Rule
a
91
short
talks
span of
about?
time.
Already I have told you
Anything
that
is possible
the
when you
person
have
claiming the
right
refund
people
during
that
any
support
period
you.
of 5 years
Our Honorable
immediately
Vice Chancellor
preceding the
is the
tax
main
period
wave of
for which
support
the refund is
who
being claimed.
welcomes
He
all
has
the
not been
endeavors of our
prosecuted.
department with
He has
his
not been prosecuted
gracious
under
smile.
any
Sir,
offense under this
without
act
your
or
support
under
and
any existing
encouragement,
law.
many
The
of the
amount of the
activities of our
tax
department
evaded, if
would
so,
not have
if
seen
any
its
he has
light.
evaded,
It
the
is
amount
my
of the tax
countless pleasure
evaded should
to
not exceed
welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor
250
to this online program,
rupees
and I
alone.
wholeheartedly thank him
Now
for
the
his presence in
endorsement,
this
as I
session
told you, this
in spite of
endorsement
his
is the
busy schedule.
major source of primary source of
And
evidence
we
for
have
the
two most
officer who is going to
knowledgeable
sanction
resource
the
persons
refund.
today
Only when the
who
officer
themselves
finds
have
the
sailed the
seal
boat of
and the
chartered
signature of the
accountancy
cess officer
on
at the
behalf
back
of
of the
Department of
invoice or on the
Commerce,
front side of
Bardiyar
the
University.
invoice, then
I
he is going to grant
wholeheartedly
us the
welcome
refund.
CA
So this is the
Geethakumar
major
and
source
CA
of evidence.
Ravikumar to enlighten the participants
Statement
and
4,
to plant the
Rule
dreams of
89
chartered
2D and
accountancy
89
among our
2E.
students.
This is similar
Education is
to
the most
the
powerful weapon which you
statement which
can
we
use
have
to
used it
change the
for the
world.
previous
Now
category
I
of
welcome
refund
all
that
the
was without
participants
payment,
of
and
this
this is with
event
payment.
and
So
request
now
them to
again you
make
can
use
see
of this
the only extra two
learning
columns which we
opportunity
have
for
in the
stepping
statement
ahead
is
of the
the
career ladder.
column
I
intimating
also
the
welcome all the
taxes
faculty
paid,
members of
the
Department of
IGST
Commerce,
paid,
Bardiyar
the
University
IGST
to this
involved,
program.
including
I
the
once
net
again
of
welcome
debit
all
note
of you
and
to this
credit
online
note
program
issues.
and request your
Sorry for the
continuous presence
disturbance.
and attention
There's
for the
some
success of this
double
program.
voicing in the
Thank you.
video.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It's not from your side, but something is interrupting.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Just a second, ma'am. We'll check it.
Now
What
I
it is.
invite
Yes, okay.
Honorable Vice Chancellor to give inaugural address.
Respected Chartered Accountant GEETHAKUMAR, Chairperson of CHENAGI SIRC of ICAI, Chartered Accountant Ravikumar, Chairman of Career Counseling Committee
Dear
of
participants,
CHENAGI
kindly check
SIRC
whether
of
now the sound is coming.
ICAI, Dr. Sumati, Dr. Dhanabhagyam, Dr. Chellaswamy, Dr. Jagdishwaran from Bardiyar University, faculty
Dear
members, other faculty
participants,
members of
kindly
Bardiyar
check whether
University and other
the
academic
sound is
institutions.
coming.
I'm extremely happy to be here for this online career counseling program about Chartered Accountant course, which is jointly organized by the Department of Commerce, Bardiyar University, and Chengalpattu District Branch of SIRC of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. I welcome you all for this program. It is heartening to know
Okay, participants, just a second.
that
We'll check what it is.
the individual with the CA qualification, they belong to the allied group of the commerce industry. Because it is the chartered accountant, they decide or guide the management to initiate their commercial activities and when to take risk and where to take risk and how to protect themselves from the financial crisis. For a long time, people are not knowing that anyone, even with +2, I don't know whether recently they have changed or not, a +2 student also can go for CA. But only when you are having a valid degree, you'll be having the mental maturity and also the attitude to work for that. But people like me, I used to think only the commerce student has to go for that, but it's not necessary. Anyone who has the attitude for the CA and having the interest to learn about that, they'll be able to
Dear participants, kindly check now. Is that all okay now? After your reply, you can start the video. We have stopped the streaming for a few minutes. So if the voice is clear now, we can start the video. Is that all okay? We can start the streaming. Yeah, you're right, participants. There is another program which has been live now. So that is the thing which is creating problem in between. So now it is okay, no? We'll start the streaming now. Ma'am, we can start, ma'am.
Yes, okay. Okay. See, as you can see now here, we have only the extra two columns here when compared to the previous category. You have the column for the integrated tax, which is paid. See, the earlier one was without payment, so we were not having the details of the IGST. Now here you need to give the details of the integrated tax paid, and that too after giving due effect to the debit notes and the credit notes. So the net IGST paid, the paid IGST is going to be claimed by way of a refund. So we need to upload this statement 4 along with the application. Hope we have discussed the other supporting document. So after successful uploading of these Excel tool, our RFD1 will get successfully filed. After that, we'll be getting the ARN. So now let us move into the next category of refund, the ITC accumulated due to inverted duty structure. So like the similar other categories of refund, here also we need to upload the declaration under 54 and 54.3. Undertaking in relation to the section 16.2C and 42, the mismatch of credit and the eligibility for claiming the input tax credit. Statement 1 under Rule 89.5. See, below I have given the formula for computing the maximum refund permissible under the inverted duty structure. So statement 1 Rule 89.5 is nothing but the turnover of the inverted rated supplies of goods or services divided by the adjusted total turnover. So like as I told you earlier, what is mean by adjusted total turnover? It is nothing but the total turnover after excluding or after eliminating the exempted supply. That will give you the adjusted total turnover. Turnover of the inverted rated supply. That is turnover pertaining only to the inverted. A person may be dealing with both inverted duty goods and also with normal regular type of goods, like where both the input and the output rates are equal rate. It may be at 12%, both are equal. So he needs to proportionately split up the turnover so that he is eligible to claim only the refund pertaining to the inverted duty structure alone. So now these two turnover in proportionate should be multiplied with the net input tax credit. As I told you, net input tax credit is nothing but the credit which has been accumulated to the period for which we are going to file the refund form. So after arriving at this ITC, you could have already paid some amount on the inverted duty. Like as I told you, inverted input rate is 12%, output rate is 18%. I'm sorry, input rate is 18%, output rate is 12%. So the 12% amount you could have already paid. Out of the 18%, you could have already discharged 12% by way of output tax. So 18 minus 12, the balance 6% only will be the resultant, or that alone, the 6% alone only will be accumulated into your electronic credit ledger. So after computing the maximum amount, that has to be deducted from the tax which has already been paid on those outward supply. So the balance remaining amount which is yet to be, which is in the credit ledger and which is not going to be further utilized for any payment alone, that is the refund amount, that is the input tax credit amount which can be claimed as the refund amount. So statement 1 is nothing but the computation. Statement 1A under Rule 89.2H. Now this is the Excel tool which we are going to upload. This statement is asking information about all the details of the invoices, or both the inward supply and the outward supply has to be filled in. So we see the first 4 columns, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the GSTN of the supplier. This is the details pertaining to the inward supply. Detail pertaining to the procurement, purchases has to be filled in. The GSTN of the supplier, invoice number, date, taxable value. Now the next of 3 columns, 6, 7, and 8 will talk about the taxes paid on the inward supply. So it can be either IGST, it can be CGST or SGST. And the next 9, 10, and 11 column will ask you information regarding your outward supply. So up to from 2 to 8, you have the inward supply detail. From 9 to 14, you have the outward supply detail. So now the details of outward supply: invoice number, date, taxable value, the integrated tax, whether it is IGST output tax paid or output tax of CGST or SGST paid, has to be filled in. Now this is a very simple form which is asking you information regarding your total inward supply and total outward supply. So after filling out this form, you need to upload it along with the 1. So statement 1 and 1A also has to be uploaded. Self-declaration under 89(2)L. So if the refund claim does not exceed 2 lakh rupee, self-declaration is sufficient.
Excuse me, ma'am. Sorry
Yes,
for this. Ma'am, participants are asking to come from the 13th slide once again, ma'am.
13.
Yeah, ma'am. They had disturbances in between from 13th slide, it seems. So.
Okay. Okay, the previous one, I think this one, yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
See, this statement is nothing but the refund computation. This is the maximum permissible refund which is allowed for the export of goods or services for a cess unit. See here, this is an example which I have given here. The total turnover is 2 lakh rupee. Total turnover is 3 lakh rupee. Turnover pertaining to the zero dated supply is alone 2 lakh rupee. And among these total turnover, I also have a component of exempted turnover, which is 50,000 rupee. So now I need to compute my adjusted total turnover. What is my adjusted total turnover? I need to eliminate my exempted turnover from the total turnover. So 3 lakh rupee minus 50,000, the net amount of 2,50,000 is my adjusted total turnover. Also, I have the net ITC, that is ITC pertaining to the period for which I have claimed my refund. I'm going to claim my refund is 45,000 rupee. Now we need to apply this to the formula which I have mentioned above. Turnover of zero rated divided by the adjusted total turnover multiplied by the net input tax credit. So turnover of zero rated is 2 lakh. It is already given in the example. Adjusted total turnover which I have computed after eliminating exempted amounts to 2,50,000 rupee multiplied by the net ITC which is 45,000. So then now the resultant figure is 36,000 alone. So out of 45,000, I am still eligible to claim the refund of only 36,000 alone. What happens to the balance 9,000? The balance 9,000 pertains to the exempted turnover. Balance 9,000 pertains to the exempted turnover. So now this is the maximum eligible refund claim for the cess unit. The next slide. Next slide is I was discussing about the refund on cess supplies with the payment of taxes. Now the previous one was without taxes and this one is with taxes. So all the declaration undertaking are similar to the previous category which we have discussed now. All the section 16(2)(z) requirement, section 42 requirement, and self-declaration under 89(2)L. If the refund does not exceed 2 lakh rupee, if it is exceed 2 lakh rupee, 89(2)M will be applicable. That is, a certificate is required to be attached. Certificate from a chartered accountant or a cost accountant is required to be attached. And the supporting documents we always have seen. We also have discussed this. Annexure A, if it is not found in 2A, and declaration under Rule 91 that the person has not been prosecuted for any offense earlier, and also if he has been prosecuted, the tax evaded does not exceed 2,50,000 rupees. And endorsement is the primary source of evidence. So in all the invoices that you have issued to the cess unit, the cess officer has to affix his seal or sign in the front page or on the back side of the invoices. Only when you produce this document, the refund claim is said to be a valid one. So now this is a statement 89(2)D and 2E, which I have already discussed. So now I have moved into the inverted duty structure. Hope you would have got the example which I have discussed. Now, and a simple example, very simple example for inverted duty structure I have given here. Say there are 3 kinds of raw material which I am using it for manufacture of my finished product Z. My raw material is A, raw material B, and raw material C. All the three raw materials are being equivalently consumed for arriving at the finished product Z. Now the GST rate for raw material A is 5%, for raw material B is 12%, for raw material C is 18%. But now my finished product is Z, the GST rate is only 12%. So now I have already paid excess tax by way of 18 plus 5, 23% I have paid in excess. So this input 12 and output 12 will get offset against each other. Now the 18 and 5%, almost 23% of my taxes will get accumulated into my electronic credit ledger. Now this is the scenario where I can apply for refund under the inverted duty structure. Hope it is clear for everyone. And this statement 1A also, just now we have discussed. The statement is asking information about all the inward supply and outward supply. From column 2 to column 8, we are giving details about the inward supply. From column 9 to column 14, we are giving details about the outward supply. So I'm just moving into the next slide. On account of refund by recipient of deemed export. So this is the category which we have seen, which I have discussed, that either of the party, that is either the supplier or the recipient, only one of the parties is allowed to claim the refund. Now the declaration is not as per Rule 54. Now we have a different declaration under Rule 89(2)(g). What is the declaration under 89(2)(g)? This is the declaration given by the recipient stating that the refund has been claimed only for those invoices which have been disclosed in the statement 5B. So see here below, I have given the Excel table. This is the statement 5B. So refund have been claimed for those invoices which are disclosed in the statement 5B for the tax period for which the refund is being claimed, and the amount does not exceed the amount of input tax credited, the amount of input tax credit availed in the valid return filed for the said tax period. So you cannot claim for a refund with something more than the accumulated ITC. Whatever be the input tax credit which is accumulated in your ledger, credit ledger alone, you are eligible to claim the refund. The applicant also has to declare that the supplier, since this is the refund claim by recipient, the recipient has to declare that the supplier has not claimed the refund with respect to these supplies. So these are the 2 points that has to be declared under Rule 89(2)(g). Statement 5B. What is statement 5B? So here is the Excel tool. Details of all the invoices of the outward supply. In case refund is claimed by the supplier. Now we are talking about only the recipient. So we'll just skip the first 3 lines. We'll just take the last 3 lines on. Details of invoices of inward supply. In case refund is claimed by the recipient. If it is claimed by the recipient, you have to furnish the GSTN of the supplier. If it is claimed by the supplier, you have to furnish the GSTN of the recipient. So it is vice versa. Number, invoice number, date, taxable value. Now what is the value of the taxes paid? So taxes can be either IGST, CGST, SGST, or cess. So whatever is applicable. Now this statement 5B has to filled in. Undertaking 16(2)(c) and section 42. So we hope we had plenty of discussion under this section. Self-declaration under 89(2)(l). If the amount does not exceed 2 lakh, if the refund claim exceed 2 lakh rupee, then you have to give a certificate from a chartered accountant or a cost accountant. Now coming to the supporting documents. What are the supporting documents that has to be uploaded? All the document requirements mentioned as per circular number 14/14. Now this is a very special circular which is issued by the GSTN Council, which is issued by the CBIC for meeting out the requirements for claiming refund by the recipient of the deemed export. Now what are all the points mentioned in the circular? The recipient of the deemed export should give a prior intimation. This is a procedure actually to be followed. The recipient of the deemed export should give a prior intimation in prescribed format. The format is called as Form A, having details about the goods that he is going to procure. So the procurement details, it has to be intimated on a preliminary basis. Before making any procurement, the first step you have to do is that you have to intimate the procurement details in Form A. To whom should you have to report? It should be reported to the development commissioner of the area. It should be reported to the development commissioner, and this should be approved by him. And also the supplier details also should be given. So from the person from whom you are going to procure the goods, the details of the supplier also should be given. The copies of these details should also be given to the registered supplier, that so and so procurement has to be done, and this is the supplier name, his GSTN number, etc. All these details should be, the copy should be given to the registered supplier. The jurisdictional GST officer of the registered supplier, not only your own jurisdictional officer, but also the jurisdiction which is pertaining to your supplier also should be intimated that these are all the transactions that is going to happen in the future. The jurisdictional GST officer of the registered recipient. So both the officers who are all coming under the jurisdictional region of the recipient also should be given, and the supplier also should be given. Both the people should be given. After the supply is done, now this is a step which has to be done before making supply. After completing the supply, there is one more process. After the supply is done, the supplier issues a tax invoice. Yes, this is a normal procedure. So he issues a tax invoice. The recipient have to endorse. Recipient have to endorse and send a copy to the above officers. To the above officers means who? The jurisdiction officer of the supplier, jurisdiction officer of the recipient, both the people. All the detail relating to the deemed export should be maintained in an electronic format, and that is called as format B. So format A is something which is to be done before making procurement. Format B is to be done, something which is to be done after making the procurement. So the details should be maintained in electronic format, Form B, by the recipient. So every month, this data in Form B should be submitted to the jurisdictional officer of the recipient. How are you going to submit these details? These details should be submitted in either in a CD, a compact disc, or a pen drive, or whatever be the mode which is convenient for the recipient. He may even take a printout of all the details, and then he can submit it to the jurisdictional officer. So this is the requirement which has to be, this is a requirement which has to be followed as per circular number 14/14 by the recipient of the deemed export. A special procedure which is notified. Now we'll move into the refund by supplier of the deemed export. So now the previous one is by recipient, this is by supplier. Declaration under 89(2)(g). So again, what is declaration under 89(2)(g)? Since this refund is going to be filed by the supplier, he has to get an undertaking from the recipient by ensuring that the recipient is not going to claim the refund, or the recipient is not going to utilize the taxes. So if the supplier files, recipient has to give the declaration. The recipient files, supplier has to give the declaration. Statement 5B under Rule 89(2)(g) is what we have seen in the previous one. 5B 89(2)(g). This table is used for both refund, for both the refund claim by the supplier and also by the recipient. Undertaking as per section 16 and 42. Yes, the eligibility criteria for claiming the input tax credit and also the matching mechanism under 42 should be followed, should be ensured. Self-declaration under 89(2)(l), if the refund does not exceed 2 lakh. Suppose if the refund claim exceeds 2 lakh, then certificate from a chartered accountant or a cost accountant as per 89(2)(m). What are all the supporting documents that has to be uploaded? Document requirements as per notification number 49/2017 along with the circular 14/14. So the points which you have discussed under this circular should be followed. In addition to that, we also have some process that has to be followed as per notification number 49/2017. What is the procedures prescribed in notification number 49/2017? The acknowledgement by the jurisdictional tax officer that the said deemed export supplies have been received by the advance authorization holder or a copy of the tax invoice which is duly signed by the recipient of the EOU unit, and that the said supplies are received. Actually, there is no fake, this is not a fake transaction, the said supplies are actually received. So who has to acknowledge? The jurisdictional tax officer of the supplier of the deemed export has to acknowledge. An undertaking by the recipient of deemed export stating that no input tax credit on such supply has been availed by him. Yes, of course, the supplier has to get an undertaking from the recipient by ensuring that the recipient has not availed the input tax credit. An undertaking by the recipient of deemed export that he shall not claim the refund on such supply. So the recipient should not do 2 points. First one is that he should not claim the input tax credit on those supply. The other thing is that he should not have claimed the refund on those supply, because the refund is going to be claimed by the supplier. These are the 3 points which has to be, 3 undertakings which has to be followed by the supplier before making the application for the refund. So now only the supporting document is that when we satisfy the condition or meet the requirements of notification number 49 and circular number 14, this is done. The refund scenario is over under this category. Moving into the next category, refund of excess payment of taxes. Again, section 16, section 42, section 89(2)L, if it does not exceed 2 lakh, if it is exceed 2 lakh, 89(2)M, hope you would have better known by this time. Statement 7 under rule 89(2)K. What is 7? Now I have listed out here. What is statement 7? So since this is a refund based on the excess payment of taxes, this information is regarding the taxes paid, which has been paid in excess. So the tax period for which you have paid the tax in excess has to be declared here. ARN number of the return. So for each and every return you file, you will be getting the ARN number. So now the ARN number of the return in which you have paid the excess taxes has to be mentioned here. The date of filing of return, the actual date on which you are going to file the return, the taxes paid, which means the excess taxes paid. So the excess taxes can be paid under either IGST or it can be paid under CGST or SGST. Or by mistake, people could have paid under cess. Instead of paying it under SGST, when you take up the mouse cursor, it moves so freely that the cursor will sit on cess instead of SGST. So without noticing or without ignoring, the taxpayer could have deposited the amount under cess. When you deposit the amount under cess, it cannot be utilized for against any other head payment. It cannot be utilized for IGST, CGST or SGST. In those cases, you can claim the refund by filling in this statement 7. The next category is refund of taxes which is paid on intra, subsequently held to be inter, and vice versa. As I told you, people may think this is an intrastate, but after checking the GST and only, he comes to know that this is an interstate transaction. And similarly, vice versa also. For those categories of refund, you have to ensure that the undertaking under 16(2)Z and 42 alone are satisfied. Statement 6 under 89(2)J. What is statement 6? So now see, you can see below statement 6 under 89(2)J. This is asking the information about the taxes paid. So GSTIN number, or suppose if he's a unregistered person, then the name of the person. Details of the invoices covering transaction considered as intra or inter. So whatever you have considered it wrongly should be filled in the first columns from 2 to 10. Invoice number, date, value, taxable value, whatever be the amount of taxes paid. It can be IG, CG, ST, cess. And the most important thing, see, you have to mention the place of supply. Only when you mention the place of supply, you will be able to decide whether this is an interstate transaction or the intrastate transaction. Transactions which were held interstate or intrastate supply subsequently. Now the first 2 to 10 talks about the erroneous declaration of data. The last 11 to 15 columns talks about the correct, what is the actual fact of the transaction. The IGST, CGST, cess, and also the place of supply. So only when you fill the place of supply, you will be able to identify whether this is an intrastate or an interstate. So after filling up the statement 6, you just need to upload it along with these two, along with this one and only undertaking. So your refund process is said to have been completed. It's a very simple form. Since this is regarding to only to the payment of taxes, the refund attachments are also very simple. The next refund criteria is refund on account of provisional assessment basis. As I told you, you're always liable to pay some percentage of demand before proceeding with any appeal. And at last, when your appeal becomes a favorable thing to you, which results in nil rate of taxes or nil demand to be paid by the taxpayer, then what happens to the amount which is already paid in preliminary to the proceeding of the demand? In those cases, that person can claim the refund by using this category. So now the self-declaration under 89.2L, if it does not exceed 2 lakh, and if it exceeds 2 lakh rupee, 89.2M, certificate from a chartered accountant or a cost accountant is required. Also, you have to ensure that section 16 conditions and section 42 conditions are met by the taxpayer. What are the supporting documents to be uploaded? You have to just upload the, you have to just provide the proof of the payment of taxes, the advance deposits which you have done in before proceeding to any appeal. We have to just provide the details of the payment of taxes. So it can be the copy of the challan itself, or it can be the reference number of the challan, the date on which you are making the payment, or the reference number of the final order which has been issued by the court or any appellate tribunal, or the provisional assessment, or anything, or any other order issued by the court. These two documents are the documents which are the primary source of evidence to ensure that refund is on account of assessment or provisional order. Now the last category, the refund on any others. So the last residual category, since we don't have any specific attachments or any specific declaration or undertaking, in general we always give the undertaking of satisfaction of conditions prescribed in section 16 and section 42. So this is a very general declaration. So again we need to declare the general undertaking, and the self-declaration, whether it exceeds 2 lakh or if it is below 2 lakh, the self-declaration or a certificate from a CA or CMA is required. And what are all the supporting document? Any document in support of the claim, whatever you think, or whatever you may feel this is the correct proof, any document can be uploaded in support of your refund claim. Now these are all the categories of refund, along with the statements or undertaking any additional documents which are required to be uploaded. Now we'll move into some of the specific provisions which have been issued or which comes along with section 54, refund. So now exceptions, withholding and non-payment of refund. Why the refund has to be withheld? Why the refund will not be paid by the officer? Or why there is an exception? So now these are all the points which says that the refund can be withheld. The refund need not be paid under these circumstances and conditions. Exceptions. The refund will not be claimed. The no refund of unutilized input tax credit will be allowed in case where the goods exported out of India are subject to export duty. This we have discussed in the undertaking part itself. Undertaking under section 54 always says that when the goods are subject to export duty, refund is denied. It is not eligible for refund. No refund of input tax credit will be allowed if the supplier of the goods or services avails the duty drawback in respect of the central claim or claim of the IGST on those supply. So if you feel that there is any duty drawback, if the officer feels if there is any duty drawback for these particular kind of refund, then the officer will not allow the refund claim for those. There may be some chances for withholding the refund also. What are all the reasons for withholding? The taxpayer has defaulted in furnishing any return. So he's not proper in furnishing the return. So he has filed April, May, and from June onwards he has not filed the return. Now he's going to apply. Now he's making an application for refund claim from September onwards. So what happens to the previous 4 months? No return filed. If no return is filed, no refund claim will be sanctioned. Defaulted in payment of taxes, any interest or penalty. The taxpayer has defaulted and he is still having the liability in his hands. Still he has not settled his liability, then the refund claim is not allowed. Also, the proper officer is authorized to deduct from the refund due any taxes, interest, penalty, fee, or any other amount which the taxpayer is liable to pay, but still which is remaining unpaid. So if something which is remaining unpaid, and if the person has applied for the refund, the officer is always having the power to withhold that particular portion and then sanction the balance amount. Withholding of refund under section 54. Suppose if there is an appeal which is pending with the applicant, where an order giving rise to a refund is the subject matter of the appeal or further proceedings, or where any other proceedings under this act is pending, and the commissioner is of the opinion that the granting of this refund is likely to or adversely will affect the revenue. So when you grant the refund, the person will not pay. This is the opinion of the commissioner. So in case of situations like this, when the appeals are pending or the proceedings are pending, and the officer feels that when you grant the refund, the person is not going to pay hereafter, he may, after giving a taxable person an opportunity of being heard. So anything, always the opportunity must be given first. Then only the refund can be withheld. After giving the proper reasonable opportunity of being heard, withhold the refund till such time as he may think fit or as he may decide on his own. Then only the proper officer will sanction the balance amount. Withholding of the refund of casual taxable and non-resident taxable. So always these two people have to pay the taxes in advance. So hope you could have discussed these provisions under the registration chapter. When people are taking up registration as a CTP or NRTP, it is a mandatory rule that their estimated tax liability has to be paid first, and then only their registration will be granted. In those cases, when the officer feels that the CTP or the NRTP is not going to pay the balance amount, or in respect of the entire period of his registration, which is valid, he is not going to furnish the return, or he is not going to pay the taxes, then he may withhold the refund for these two categories of people. Non-payment of refund. No refund will be paid to the applicant if the amount is less than 1,000 rupee. So there are minimum criteria for making an application, refund application is 1,000 rupee for particular head. Remember, this is not under a consolidated basis. This is not in total IGST, CGST, SGST put together. It is not 1,000. It is IGST 1,000, CGST 1,000, SGST 1,000. So when you say if you want to claim the refund for 100 in CGST, 100 in SGST, system will not allow you, because refund is always permissible only when the minimum amount is 1,000 rupees. So now we'll move into the next discussion of the circular number 125 bar 44 bar 2019. This was a very important circular. Almost the circular ran into 29 to 30 pages, discussing in detail the elaborate procedures and process for sanctioning of the refund. That is how the refund application should be made, how the officer will process your refund, and what is the maximum time limit within which the refund application has to be processed. Everything was brought out neatly in this circular. So just a few points to keep in mind from the circular number 125. So with effect from 26/9/2019, we are always having the full automated refund. Earlier it was like manual interruption, like you need to print out of all the forms filed, and then you have to go to the jurisdictional officer, submit it to the officer in physical. So physical presence was required earlier. Now with effect from 26/9, the entire refund process is set to be fully electronic. So all steps starting from the submission and processing of the refund will be undertaken electronically. So now the GST policy wing also has issued the circular with a detailed set of guidelines for electronic processing of refund. So even the officer may not be aware. So the officer also has to go through this particular circular and to ensure that the full disbursement is being done in an electronic model. So starting from form GST RFD1, which is the application form I told you, which should be submitted along with the undertaking, and then no other document need to be submitted in person to the officer. Whatever you want to submit, you have to upload everything, because now the application will allow you to upload a maximum of 5 documents, maximum of 4 documents, each of size 5 MB. So one document can be maximum of 5 MB. So 5 into 4, up to 20 MB of document you can upload along with the refund application. So neither the RFD form or the supporting document required to be physically submitted. Once you upload, that's all. The job is done. Over. So immediately you will get the ARN number. As I told you, ARN number should be will be from the date of generation of ARN number. Either RFD2 has to be generated, that is acknowledgement, or the deficiency memo RFD3 should be issued. So now when RFD3 is issued, deficiency is issued, the officer is requiring you some more information. Again, you have to resubmit it, and then you have to generate a fresh ARN. And now the circular also has given a point that because of the migration process from the erstwhile laws, from the erstwhile service tax, old VAT laws, people could have migrated to GST. At the time of migration, they were not aware of the jurisdiction which they belong. I may be located in Tambaram, but I may not be knowing whether I'm belonging to Tambaram circle or I'm belonging to Krombet circle. I may not be aware. So people could have wrongly selected some jurisdiction. In those cases, the refund application which are being transmitted to a wrong jurisdiction, the officer in that jurisdiction has to redirect or has to reassign the refund form to the correct jurisdiction. And that too, this has to be done within 3 working days. So just think of the amount of help that has been done by the department. Suppose if our refund application is filed wrongly, the officer himself has to redirect it to the correct jurisdiction so that the taxpayer may not suffer unnecessarily. The taxpayer need not suffer unnecessarily. So now the some taxpayers may not be assigned with the proper jurisdiction, or they may be still left without assigning a proper jurisdiction. In those cases, the refund application pertaining to those taxpayers are transmitted to their jurisdiction where they were related to in their old laws, that is in service tax and VAT period, in which jurisdiction I was, I may be redirected to that particular jurisdiction. So until I am being allotted with the new jurisdiction, all my refund works, all my process will be taken care by my officer in the old jurisdiction, in the old area itself. And you have to always remember that the returns, GST 3B and 1 return, up to date, it should have been filed before making the refund application. So today, if you're going to file the refund application, you have to ensure that up to yesterday, what are all the returns that are due for filing has been properly filed. And also, as I told you, the refund, the proper officer, after getting your refund form, may immediately sanction 90% of the refund claim. This is because the input tax credit which has been put into your credit ledger is always based on the provisional terms. It is always based on the provisional terms, because the supplier may file or may not be filed. Sometimes due to any mistakes or errors caused, the supplier may not declare one of your invoices. In those cases, the recipient cannot be denied that the input tax credit is not eligible. In those cases, the proper officer has to provisionally accept the input tax credit. After proper verification, he may still sanction the balance amount of 10%. And also now there is a relaxation given under the circular that earlier refund cannot be clubbed. Say if you are a quarterly filer, you have to file refund on a quarterly basis. If you are a monthly filer, you have to file refund on a monthly basis. So monthly filer cannot file on a quarterly basis, and quarterly filer cannot file on a monthly basis. But now the relaxation has been given that clubbing of quarters, clubbing of months are equivalently allowed for all the taxpayer. So April, May, June quarter can be clubbed with July, August, September, or even I can file the refund for the entire financial year. Starting from April to March, I can file the refund for the entire financial year. And now we also had one more circular number 135 /05, which was issued on 31st March 2020. And this circular says that the restriction on bunching of the refund claims across the financial years. Bunching of the refund claim across the financial year is also allowed. Earlier, you cannot file the refund application by clubbing of March and April. But now you are allowed to club the March month and April month refund claims. So clubbing across financial year is also allowed. Now moving to the next slide, refund should be filed in a chronological order. Yes, for unutilized ITC, say if the period should be in a chronological order. Say if you're claiming for April, May, June, then the subsequent claim should be for July, August and September. Again, you cannot go and claim for April, May, June under some other categories of refund. Again, for some other category. So always it should be in a sequential order, a chronological order should be maintained here. RFD 3, that is a deficiency memo when it is issued, it shows that the refund has not been accepted. Your refund claim has not been accepted by the officer. In those cases, there will be an automatic recredit of the refund claim either into your cash ledger or the credit ledger. See, whenever you file the refund, the moment you submit the refund form, there will be a debit from your cash ledger if it is an excess payment, or there will be a debit from your credit ledger if it is for unutilized ITC. The moment when the officer finds this is not eligible and if he issues RFD 3, which means it is being rejected, in those cases, the debited amount again will get recredited into your cash ledger if it is debited from the cash ledger, or it will get recredited into your credit ledger if it is debited from your credit ledger. So wherever the amount is being taken, it will get replaced directly, provided if the RFD 03 deficiency is being issued. So always I told you this point, even if you're resubmitting the application, the relevant period of 2 years has to be considered. Suppose if there is any irregularity in your refund claim, the officer is not satisfied with your refund claim. First, he will issue the provisional amount of 90% provisional refund claim, and after further processing and further verification, he might be issuing the balance 10%. Or sometimes if the officer feels that the entire claim is very perfect, he may directly pass the final order RFD 06. And now earlier, the center and the state jurisdiction has been given separate powers for disbursal of the refund claim. What happens is that if I claim 100, for example, if I claim 1 lakh rupee under CGST, 1 lakh rupee under SGST, first the central jurisdiction officer will process my refund claim, and then he may issue the order to the state jurisdictional officer. In those cases, there might be enormous amount of time delay. So first the central officer has to process, and then he has to issue the order to the state officer, and then the state officer will take some time to process. So in those cases, there will be a huge amount of delay. But now, after the issue of the circular, both the center and the state officer have been given the equivalent powers. So which means if you're claiming refund under CGST and SGST, the center officer himself can issue the refund for the state jurisdiction also. If you're claiming refund and if you're coming under the state jurisdiction, the state officer can himself issue the order for the center authority also. So now the process has become more shorter, and immediately we have the possibility of getting the refund. Now, as I told you, there might be some provisional granting of refund and subsequently final order will be issued. There may be some scenarios where the refund granted in your final order is less than the amount granted in your provisional order. So here I have given you an example. See, the ITC is 100 rupee. Provisional refund received. Since 90% of the refund claim is being granted as the provisional claim, 90 rupee is being granted as the provisional refund. But the officer, after proper verification of the records, after being proper verification of the records, is providing that you are eligible only to claim the refund claim of 70 rupees alone. But earlier, you have received the provisional claim of 90, and now you have the final refund value. You are eligible for a final refund value of 70 only. So what happens to the balance 20 rupee? The balance 20 rupee is the rejected portion. The officer will issue RFD 08 because this is some ineligible portion, or the officer may feel that there is no proper documentary evidence for these balance 20 rupee. So he may reject the claim. In those cases, already your bank account is being credited with 90. So now the officer will issue notice under section 73 and 74 for recovery proceeding of the 20 rupee along with the interest and penalty. For recovery proceeding under section 73 and 74 along with the interest and penalty. So 20 rupee will again be collected by the officer, or he may issue a DRC 7 challan. This is the demand challan which will be created by the officer, or the DRC 03, the voluntary payment which will be done by the taxpayer himself. The taxpayer feels that this 20 is not eligible. Yes, I accept, sir, this 20 is not eligible. The taxpayer feels he may voluntarily pay back the 20 rupee again to the electronic cash ledger or credit ledger from wherever it was taken. Or the refund claim was actually done for 100 and the final value is only for 70. So what will happen to the balance 30 rupee? The balance 30 rupee will be automatically recredited to the electronic credit ledger by the taxpayer himself. So when the officer issues GST PMT 03, the amount of the refund claim which was rejected will again be recredited to the electronic credit ledger. If it is taken from the cash ledger, it will be recredited to the cash ledger. If it is taken from the credit ledger, it will be recredited to the credit ledger. So again, you have to ensure that there is no adjustment for withholding or refund. If there is any amount that has to be withheld, the officer will adjust those amount, and then only he will issue the order for recrediting. Only the balance amount will be recredited. So the rejection, RFD 8, the 20 rupee, the ineligible claim will be issued in RFD 8 as an ineligible portion. That ineligible portion has to be either paid by the taxpayer himself on a voluntary basis using the challan DRC 3, or the officer may issue a demand challan, DRC 7 challan, demand challan, so that the tax officer will ask the taxpayer to pay the balance amount. So this is an example in case where the provisional amount differs from the final amount. The provisional amount is greater than the final refund claim. Now we'll move into the scrutiny of records. What are all the checks that are given for different categories of refund? So in the case of refund claim for export without payment of taxes, the shipping bill and the EGM will be verified from the ICAI portal. So it is advised for the officer that not to check only for the GSTR 1 filed for that refund period alone, but also to consider the table 9 of GSTR 1 of the subsequent period also, so that if any mistake is made by the taxpayer, he could have used the subsequent month return to get it rectified. So if the officer verifies only that particular month, he may not be able to find out whether this amount is a proper figure or not. So he has to check the subsequent month return figures also, so that he will get a clear idea of what is being done by the taxpayer. So in case of any errors or omission, subsequent month return will definitely show you what is being done. Because at the initial phase of implementation of GST, people have committed errors. So instead of declaring it in zero rated supply, all the export turnover, they have declared it in exempted supplies. So there is a different row, exempted supply. Now, when you declare it in exempted supply, what does it mean? Your refund claim is said to be ineligible. And in the case of cess refund also, similar errors have been committed. Instead of declaring it in zero rated, people have declared it in exempted supply. So not only the from GSTR 3B return, you always have to consider the row number 3.1A, 1B, and 1C cumulatively. You should not only consider 3.1B, 3.1A, B, and C should be considered cumulatively for identifying the correct amount of the zero rated turnover. And as I told you earlier, both center and state was given the refund separately. But now since the refund is being distributed, now it is being dispersed through the PFMS. What is meant by PFMS? Public Financial Management System. It is being refund. The entire refund claim is being dispersed through PFMS. The time span for getting the refund is more shorter and quicker. Now, how this PFMS work? This PFMS works like after the submission of the RFD1 form, a unique assessee code will be created by the PFMS. The PFMS will validate your bank account number. which you have given at the time of registration. It will validate your bank account number. A unique code which is the combination of your GSTIN and the bank account number will be generated by the PFMS. So this is why people are advised, taxpayers are advised to provide only one bank account number. If you provide multiple bank account number in your GST portal, then the PFMS will get confused, or it may generate multiple unique SSE code. So it may get confused to which unique SSE code the refund should be granted, and the refund will be put on hold. So it's always advised that only one valid bank account number should be given, so that the PFMS will create a unique code by combining both the GST number and the bank account number, so that the refund can be directly processed through this unique SSE code. Suppose if your bank account is found to be invalid, in those cases, taxpayers are advised to make amendment to your bank account number. So you could have erroneously left one digit in your bank account number and it is not being validated. So in those cases, a message will be passed on to both the taxpayer and the officer that the bank account number is not valid. So again, now the taxpayer has to make an amendment in the portal. He has to correct the bank account number, and after proper correction, again it will be redirected. The refund process will be redirected. So whatever be the delay in number of days for sanctioning the refund, any number of days, interest should be provided at the rate of 6% per annum. Interest should be provided at 6% per annum. So if there is a 1 month delay, so 6% into 30 by 365. This is the refund amount into 6% into 30 by 365. This is the amount of interest that we are going to get for the delayed refund. So moving to the guidelines for GST refund. Yes, I have some more time. Guidelines for GST refund. So based on the different categories of refund, the first one is the cess refund. For refund of unutilized ITC, or it may be unutilized ITC due to inverted duty structure also. In those cases, GSTR 2A always act as a primary evidences. So GSTR 2A has to be uploaded with your refund claim form, so that the officer will check only the GSTR 2A, and based on all the invoices reflected in the 2A, he will be sanctioning you the amount of refund. So the applicant shall also upload the details of all the invoices which are not listed out in the 2A. So because the mistake is made by the supplier, mistake is committed by the supplier, and because of it, the recipient cannot be denied of the eligible credit. So in those cases, the taxpayer, the person who is claiming the refund, can upload the self-certified copies of the invoices. The applicant also should upload the details of the invoices based on which the input tax credit is going to be claimed. So all the details, all the list of the inward supplies, all the list of the inward procurement has to be listed out in Annexure B. And also there is a provision given for valuation of the turnover of zero-rated supply. Now what the provision says is that the value of the turnover of the zero-rated supply should always be restricted. There is a maximum cap fixed for it. So it always be restricted to 1.5 times the value of the goods which are domestically supplied. So when you make any local supply, when you make the supply within India, or when you make the supply to domestic tariff area, it is not a cessy area, it's a normal regular area, and the value of zero rated should be restricted to 1.5 times of the domestic supply area. And also the proper officer should not insist on submission of the invoice copy, because all the invoice details are available in GSTR 2A. GSTR 2A is the primary evidence. So he should not ask for the invoice copies of all the transactions that are listed out in 2A. If it is not listed out in 2A, whatever be the missed out thing, he may ask for the invoice copy. But for all the items which are listed in 2A, the officer should not insist for the invoice copy. In case of refund of tax paid on deemed export, now we have to comply with the requirements of section 49/2017. The deemed export, which this point we have already discussed in this slide, where the documentary evidences are required to be given, which has to be followed when the supplier is making the supply of deemed export. So like submission of acknowledgement to the jurisdictional officer of the supplier and also to the recipient in Form A, Form B. So all these points we have discussed. Refund of the TDS or TCS, that is a refund of the excess taxes paid. When the tax director or collector is deposited under the wrong head or something which is in excess, thereby creating an excess balance in the cash ledger, either the director or the collector, whatever be the case may be, they may claim the refund under excess taxes paid. But it is also clarified that such excess balance may be claimed by the tax director or the collector from his cash ledger, because this amount will always be put into your electronic cash ledger only, because this is the excess amount credit, excess cash collected, excess taxes paid. This will not go into a credit ledger. It will always be remaining in your cash ledger only. So either the director or the collector can claim the excess taxes paid from his cash ledger. So now when the tax director or collector has been discharged, so from the cash ledger you have ultimately utilized, there is nothing left, but it is a wrong utilization, it is a excess utilization. What will happen in this case? So when the taxes paid has been discharged, then the said amount will be credited to the electronic credit ledger of the deductee. Yes, if I have utilized means what will happen when the deductor files his GST or TDS return, it will get transferred to the cash ledger or the credit ledger of the deductee. Now again the deductee, since because there is no liability for this, now the deductee can claim the refund under the head excess of refund paid. Now refund of the IGST paid on exports. Now again, as I told you, shipping bill and EGM, export general manifesto, has to be verified from the ICAI portal, and these two documents are the primary source of evidence in the case of IGST paid on exports. Shipping bill, first one, shipping bill should always be matched with the GSTR 1 and 3B return filed. And at the time, since this is an automated refund, you are not going to file anything to claim the refund. There is an automatic matching mechanism between the GST portal and the ICAI portal. So whatever is the data being fed in GSTR 1 and 3B should match with the shipping bill. After successful validation by the ICAI portal, first the GST portal will transfer the data to the ICAI portal. After successful validation by the ICAI portal, refund will be granted from the custom departments. Refund will be directly credited to your bank account from the custom department. Now there are clarifications issued relating to zero-rated supplies also. So what will happen in the case of exports are made before executing LUT? See, I forgot to take my LUT, but already I have issued my export bill. What will happen in this case? Now, in such cases, the delay in furnishing of LUT may be condoned, and the facility for export under LUT may be allowed on ex post facto basis. This is what given in the circular. So the unnecessarily the exporter need not be put into burden. This is only a procedural lapse in taking the LUT. So it may be condoned and LUT may be allowed on a ex post facto basis, taking into account the facts and circumstances of the case. What will happen if the goods not exported within the prescribed time limit? See, if you make any procurement for export, it has to be done within the prescribed period. If it is not done, what are the consequences that has to be faced by the taxpayer? The exporter is liable to pay the tax due along with the interest as applicable within a period of 15 days from the expiry of 3 months or such extended period as may be notified by the commissioner. So usually it is only 3 months. Within 3 months, the export has to be done. If it is not done, or the taxpayer may seek some excuse from the commissioner also may extend some period. So from the extended period, within 15 days, the taxpayer has to make the payment. Since he earlier told it is export, the government is not going to collect any taxes. But now he has not exported the goods, so he has to definitely pay the taxes. So the time period, in case of export, it is 15 days. In case of services, it is 15 days from after the expiry of 1 year or such other extended period as may be allowed by the commissioner from the date of issue of the invoice for the export. from the date of issue of invoice has to be counted if such payment is not received in convertible foreign exchange. Also, it is clarified that the export have been zero rated under the IGST. So as long as goods are actually being exported, it remains as IGST within 3 months. But once when the time period expires and still the export is not done, payment of IGST first and then claiming of refund should not be insisted by the officer. So this is also notified under the circular. Now again, there is a proof of realization of export. So sometimes in the value declared in the tax invoice is different from the export value declared in the corresponding shipping bill. So this might be because of the foreign exchange fluctuations. Every day you might be having a different exchange rate. So today you might be having 76, tomorrow you might be having 77. So these are all the exchange rate fluctuations. In those cases, what the circular says is that the lower of the two value should be always taken into account while computing the refund amount. So shipping bill, tax invoice, whichever is lower should be taken into account for considering the refund claim. Also, it is clarified that the incidence of proof of realization of export proceeds for the refund should not be insisted upon. The officer should not ask for the realization like BRC certificates or FIRC. The officer should not ask. Only when there is any ambiguity or when there is any doubt and he needs further clarification, he has to ask for the document. And in the case of export of non-GST goods or exempted goods, there is non-GST goods that does not come under the GST purview. And in case of export of exempted goods, LUT is not required because it is already an exempted thing. So LUT is not required to be undertaken or taken. Rule 96B with effect from 23rd March 2020. What this Rule 96B says is that where any refund of unutilized ITC on account of export of goods or IGST paid on export of goods has been paid to an applicant, but the sale proceeds have not been realized. So you have made an export invoice, but you have not received the sale proceeds. There is no realization of the sale proceed as per the Foreign Exchange Management Act. So for every export sale, there is a cutoff period mentioned as per the FEMA Act. Within the prescribed period, if you have not realized, including the extended period by the commissioner, the person to whom the refund has been made, again he shall deposit the refunded amount to the government. So whatever is being granted as a refund, again it should be taken back from the exporter or it should be taken back from the taxpayer because he has not met the requirement mentioned as per the FEMA. Suppose when the sale proceeds in respect of goods are not realized by the applicant within the prescribed period as per the FEMA Act, but the Reserve Bank of India has written off the requirement. It says that there is no such requirement hereafter. We can waive it off. In those cases, the refund paid to the applicant will not be recovered. So only if it is not waived off by the RBI, the refund claim will be taken back from the exporter. If it is waived off, then the exporter need not again pay back the refund amount. Again, after some time, after 2 or 3 months, if the sale proceeds has been realized by the exporter, again now the refund can be claimed by the taxpayer. Again, the refund can be claimed by the exporter, but few conditions has to be met as per the FEMA Act. So this is a new requirement of Rule 96B, which was inserted during March 2020. Now there is a clarification for refund of inverted duty. So always the tax authority cannot deny the refund claim of ITC paid on inputs at a lower rate. Say, as I told you, I have procured inputs at 5%, 12%, 18%. My output rate is 28%. So, sorry, my output rate is 18%. So 18 and 18. Now the taxpayer cannot deny the refund for 12 and 5%. Since it is being procured at a lower rate, equally this comes under the scenario of inverted duty structure. So definitely it is eligible for claiming as a refund. And also you have to ensure that refund is not applicable where inputs and outputs are at the same rate. So just because you have the input at 12 and output at 12, you cannot come under the category inverted duty structure. And clarifications with regards to input tax credit and exporters, people who are exporting or all will be having the eligibility to procure those materials or procure those inward supply at a concessional rate of 0.1%. So those 0.1% is also eligible for refund. Tax authorities cannot deny that you haven't paid the normal rate of 12% or 18%, so I'm not going to grant you the refund. Taxpayers, the officer cannot deny such thing by telling those things. Always the exporters are also eligible to claim the refund when the procurement are done at a concessional rate also. So even when you procure for 0.1%, you are eligible for the refund. So the last circular, which was brought out 31st March 2020, circular number 135. The points already we could have discussed this. Refund pertaining to different financial years can be clubbed. As I told you, March 2020 and April 2020. Even though these 2 months belong to different financial years, these 2 months can be clubbed for making a refund application. The mode of refund is, this is very important. The mode of refund is that whenever the refund is being debited, when it is debited from the cash ledger, and again there is some deficiency memo, it has to be recredited. It will be recredited only to the cash ledger, not to the credit ledger. And whenever there is a debit in the credit ledger, it will be recredited to the credit ledger only and not to the cash ledger. Application of Rule 36.4. It's a new rule which is mandatory from 9/10/2019. This rule says that the taxpayer is eligible to claim the particular ITC, that is, he is eligible to transfer the ITC into his electronic credit ledger only when those invoices are reflected in his GSTR 2A. So otherwise he is not eligible to take the claim. And the new requirement for mentioning the HSN or SAC code was inserted. This is because many people were claiming the refund for capital goods, which was not eligible. So refund you cannot claim for your capital goods. Refund is always eligible only for your input services, only for 2 things, not for capital goods. So a new requirement was brought by the CBIC by way of a notification and asking for the HSN code. So just by looking into the HSN code, the officer can decide whether this is an input or input services or capital goods. If it is a capital goods, then directly it will go for rejection. You're not eligible to claim the refund. So now these are all the points which are being listed out in the circular, and we also have come to the end of the session. And at last I have given a very simple case law for a practical example of identifying what is the maximum amount of refund. See here, I have given you the export turnover, which is without payment of taxes, and domestic turnover, local turnover, which is 1,25,000, and the output IGST, which has to be paid for this domestic turnover, is 22,500. 18% of 1,25,000 is 22,500, and the ITC availed during the relevant period. So this is the relevant period. The question itself says that this is the period for which we are going to claim the refund. So balances in the electronic credit ledger is given here under the IGST 9.5, CGST 9.5, SGST 9.5. How we are going to calculate the maximum refund amount? So first you have to use the formula: turnover of the zero rated divided by the adjusted total turnover multiplied by the net ITC. So now the turnover of zero rated is export turnover 75,000 divided by the adjusted total turnover, which means the total turnover excluding exempted. So 1,25,000 plus 75 will give you 2 lakh total turnover. So 75,000 divided by 2 lakh multiplied by the IGST. The refund always should be computed headwise only. You cannot compute the refund amount put together all the heads, CGST, SGST or IGST. You can only claim for a headwise. So because each head may be having a different ITC balances. So here, look into the calculation. I have showed you IGST separately, CGST separately, and SGST separately. Now this is the balance. This is the maximum refund amount which we are eligible to claim. What is the maximum refund amount? 3,563, 3,563 under CG and 3,563 under SG. Now let me look into the balances in my credit ledger. That is after utilizing the output tax. After utilizing the input tax for making payment against my output tax of 22,500. Say I have to pay IGST of 22,500. So now I am first utilizing the balance in IGST 9,500. So nothing is left. IGST balance is nil. Again, since it is not sufficient, I'm utilizing the balance from CGST 9,500. So nothing is left in CGST, it is nil. Now, still I need to pay some more. So I'm taking the balance from the SGST amount. Now SGST balance is 6,000 rupee, which is left. So the maximum refund amount is the maximum claim in the balance or the maximum amount that you have computed. What you have computed is 3,563. But what is the balance left? It is nil. So now you don't have any refund claim under IGST. What is the maximum claim under CG? 3,563. What is the balance left in CG? Nil. So you don't have any refund claim under CGST. Now, what is the maximum claim under SGST? 3,563. What is the balance left in SGST ledger? It is 6,000. So lowest of the two amount, 3,563 or 6,000. I am having the eligibility to claim only 3,563 from the SGST as my refund amount. So this is a very simple example to make a better understanding. So we have come to the end of the session. So if there are any questions, please post it so that I can get it clarified.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, the questions from the YouTube link are being posted in the chat box. So,
yes, ma'am.
Dear participants, by the time if you have any queries regarding today's session, you can keep on posting your questions in the live chat box.
Ma'am, is it the chat box from the Google Chrome or do I need to log into?
No, ma'am. I have posted it in the Google Meet itself.
Okay.
Is it available, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not able to open the chat box. 1 second.
Or else, shall I read the questions?
Yes, ma'am. I've opened. Just now open. Okay. Mr. Jagadishwaran, suppose GSTR 1 is filed by the recipient in subsequent month, whether refund is eligible. Yes, actually, whenever after filing of the due filing of the returns, thereafter you are eligible for the refund. Doesn't mean that you're always denied from that point. So after due filing of this GSTR 1 return, maybe even after the due date also, if you pay late fee and file the returns, thereafter you can make the claim for the refund. Refund applied by supplier for accumulated ITC for January 2020, but the recipient filed GSTR 1 subsequent month as February, March. Whether refund is admissible? No, sir. Refund is not admissible for January, but it can be admissible after filing of the GSTR 1 return by the supplier, which means that in the subsequent month, February and March, you can consider this invoice for claiming it as a refund. It is only not eligible for January, but once when the supplier files and once when it is getting reflected in the GSTR 2A, from that moment onwards, it is eligible for the recipient to claim it as the refund. So that is what it is always advised the person to wait or to club some more month before filing the refund. So instead of filing it for January, you have to better wait for, and you can claim it on a cumulative basis. Like you can club January, February and March together. So always you need not go for monthly. Only if it is monthly filers, then you will be having the freedom of enjoying the credit in that month itself. The quarterly filers will always file it in the subsequent month only. In those cases, it is always better to club the quarter. So Jan, Feb, March quarter can be clubbed and filed as a refund application. What is the difference between, actually it is BRC, I think yes, it is BRC and FARC. Both are same only the name differs. Some bank may be issuing it as a bank remittance certificate. Some bank will be issuing it as a foreign inward remittance certificate. Both have the same meaning only the name terminology differs, being different banks uses the different terminology. What is net ITC? Net ITC is the net input tax credit that has been accumulated during the period for which you are claiming the refund. Say, for example, I am claiming the refund for April to September. Only the ITC which is accumulated from April to September will be taken here. ITC which is being put into the credit ledger during March month, or the ITC which is being put into the credit ledger during October, November will not be considered here. So net ITC is only the period for which you are going to claim the refund. That period alone, ITC alone will be considered here. Why refund is denied when the supply is subject to export duty? See, when the exports are subject to duty, there is always a claim from the customs. So again, you cannot enjoy the double benefit here. So always duty drawback when it is given by the customs for a single export, you cannot obtain a duty drawback and then a refund. Either only one thing is allowed. There is no double benefit enjoyed. So when they said, what does mean by duty drawback? Customs is going to repay you the duty. Then what is the necessity to claim the refund in the GST scenario? So only one benefit is allowed. So goods which are subject to duty drawback, it is not eligible for refund claim. When the taxpayer gets a notice to return, how rupees 30 would be credited in his account? See, I have claimed the refund amount of 100 rupee. I have filled in the application 100 rupee, but the provisional order is for 90%, and then the final order is for 70 only. So almost 20 rupee has been credited into my bank account in addition, extra amount, which has to be repaid to the government. That I will repay it. Cash paid into my bank account, amount deposited in my bank account, again will be repaid to the government. But the 10 rupee, because when you apply for refund, whatever you apply for refund will get debited from the electronic credit ledger. So you have applied for 100 could have got debited from your credit ledger, but you have realized only 70. You have realized in your hands only 70. So what will happen to the balance 30? 20 you have to repay it back because it is not eligible. When you repay it back, it will be again paid into your cash ledger. 10 rupee, which is excess paid to you, not paid, which is excess debited from your credit ledger, will get recredited. Will get recredited to your debit ledger, because though it is not eligible, you can use it for utilizing some other payment of output tax, right? So that 10 rupee also will get recredited. So only what I am realizing in my hands, only what is the amount mentioned in the final order alone, that is only the eligible portion. So the balance amount 20 rupee in cash ledger, 10 rupee in credit ledger, because all these 30 rupee has been taken from my credit ledger, right? It has been debited from credit ledger. So again, it will be recredited. Whether input services is eligible for refund? Yes, in accumulated ITC, see earlier the officers were denying the credit on services, but now the officers are being given a circular that inputs and also input services are also eligible for ITC. Officers cannot deny that this particular invoice is services, so it is not eligible. Yes, very well. Inputs and input services are eligible. It should not be capital goods. Only thing, it should not be capital goods. Composition dealer claim refund. Actually, there is no point in a composition dealer claiming the refund, because a composition dealer will not always collect taxes. So there will be no amount in his credit ledger. There will be no amount in his cash ledger. So what is the point in claiming the refund? Hope there is no point in claiming the refund. Only when you have something in your cash ledger or something in your credit ledger, you have the eligibility to claim the refund. So composition dealer cannot claim the refund because his transactions are not subject to, he cannot collect taxes from the customer. Yes, hope I have answered all the questions. Yes, these are all the questions in the chat box. Anything else, ma'am? Madam, is that all?
Dear participants, if you have any queries regarding today's session, you can post it in the chat box. Ma'am, we'll wait for 2 more minutes, ma'am. If
Yes,
they
yes, ma'am.
some questions, we'll convey it, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, hope the questions are over, ma'am,
Yes. Okay, ma'am.
because they're congratulating you through the chat box, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
So thank you so much for being with us today, ma'am. That was an outstanding session, and that was a clear-cut explanation given by you. Thank you for sparing your 3 hours with us, and especially sorry for the inconvenience in between, ma'am.
No
That
issues,
created
ma'am.
a problem in between because
Okay.
the sessions were going extraordinarily, but in between interruptions got
Okay.
clash with the session. But the sessions were really good. Like the chat box is filled with tremendous comments, ma'am. So on behalf of School of Commerce, Bharatiya University, Dr. N. Jagdishwaran sir, and all the enthusiastic participants watching on YouTube Live, I wholeheartedly thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for being with us and sparing your 3 hours of time for sharing your knowledge. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, all participants. Thank you, Dr. Jagdishwaran sir, for this opportunity. And thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dear participants, it is for your kind attention that today's assessment link will be posted by 9 p.m. today. Dear participants, kind attention, please. Today's assessment link will be posted by 9 p.m. today. So if it is posted by 9 p.m. today, it will be available for 24 hours. So you can give it till tomorrow night 9 p.m. So kindly have an attention on it. Thank you all. We'll meet up for the tomorrow session.